Up only, Mark.
And action, Reacher.
Reacher is an eccentric character. Who is this bizarre human being, and why is he so big?
It's layered, it's a roller coaster, and obviously there's so much action and excitement all around it.
It's gritty and it's full of action and has the passionate love story as well.
What the hell just rolled into Margaret?
The first and I think the most important beat is Reacher comes to town. Reacher is, before he can even enjoy a slice of pie at a diner, arrested for a murder that he clearly did not commit.
Well, there has been a murder in Margrave, and in classic kind of small-town tradition, the latest stranger to show up is accused of it. Because, of course, everybody knows everybody else. How could it be? Who could have done it? And here's this nasty-looking stranger. Obviously, he's the suspect.
Desert's gonna have to wait. You're under arrest for murder.
So there's a lot going on in Margrave when Reacher arrives. He arrives to a town that on its surface feels like Mayberry. It's blue skies and birds chirping, but there's a dark underbelly to the town. There's corruption within the police department, and there's some unsolved murders, which for a small town is very strange. He's immediately thrust into the middle of Margrave's murder mystery.
Come on, you can move faster than that.
Obviously, we went on a nationwide, a worldwide search for Jack Reacher. Reacher is 6'5", 250, but he's brilliant and always the smartest guy in the room. And I called Lee Child, several months into the casting process and said, this guy doesn't exist. You've created a unicorn.
The role of Reacher for an actor is a tough one because it's not just about the acting talent and what's inside. Part of Reacher's whole presentation to the world is that he's a huge guy. He's intimidating. He's the sort of guy who walks into a room and the temperature drops just a degree. People are a little worried about this huge, rough, tough-looking guy. And so an actor, to do it well, has got to be two things. He's got to be born huge. And very unjustly, that excludes a lot of actors because not every actor is born huge.
They're very talented actors and a lot that came close. But then Alan Ritchson kind of walked into the room and you know when you see it. Alan has that incredible ability to blend the three aspects of Reacher that are most important. One, clearly the physicality, Two, Alan's ability to deliver sort of Reacher's detective hypotheses, the way he sees clues, the way he picks apart people and situations, were delivered in an interesting way and in a very insightful way. And then third, and this is the sort of the magic, Reacher, as written by Lee Child, always has sort of a little bit of a dry wit and a sarcasm, sort of a knowing smile, because he knows, he basically is ahead of the room always. And Alan was able to deliver that just very naturally without even discussing. Alan was just, it was the moment he walked in the room.
Sasquatch don't talk. I had a passport on him, though. Jack Reacher. No middle name.
Zip ties?
Cuffs didn't fit him.
Reacher is a mysterious stranger. He's the knight-errant archetype. He's the guy that blows into town from who knows where and takes the law into his own hands. And I think that's why we love him. I think, it's Reacher's wish fulfillment for us, the guy that's going to come into our world and fix everything and then carry on, So I love that, Reacher is a hero in some sense, but also a little rough around the edges. So it humanizes him, and I think that's what makes him so fun to play.
Alan is nailing it. He's really got that. He's got that kind of bemusement. Why isn't everybody else as fast as I am? Why isn't everybody else understanding this? And yet courteous and polite, because never forget, Reacher was a military officer. He was a West Point graduate. He has that kind of courtesy that such people have. And that is that combination, the courtesy, the politeness, in some ways gentleness, but in some ways the possibility of extreme retribution. That's what defines Reacher. And I think Alan Ritchson is nailing it. He's perfect. I've been so impressed by what I've seen.
Hi, can I help you?
Nope. Just giving your dog some water.
I must have knocked the bowl over because I gave him water this morning.
No, you didn't.
Bowl was bone dry. You calling me a liar?
Yes. Preparation for the role was not that easy. I mean, it's not easy being Reacher's a big guy. In the books, he's anywhere from 6'5", 220 to 6'5", 250. So for me, I spent a lot of time in the gym, you know, putting on a little weight, you know, to step into those very big shoes. It's also, he's an intellect, you know, so you know, I want to know his world, inhabit his world, understand how he thinks as a detective. So there's a little research involved in that.
Reacher, at the beginning of this season, he's really not long out of the Army. He was a military policeman. And so he's got those skills which are very, very developed, but very, very narrow, and really not much use to a person in the civilian world. And so what we're seeing is a character trying to come to terms with his new life, and also constantly having to use his old life. His old skills are constantly employed.
2 days ago, moon would have been about 26 degrees further west. This area would have been darker. This is where he hid. His mind, I think, works a little bit like an Excel spreadsheet, right? There's like cells and boxes. He's gonna go down and check each one. It's logical. It's every, you know, A leads to B leads to C. And, you know, he sort of chases a line until it doesn't make sense anymore, or until he's gotten his answer. It's almost like he's on some spectrum of just this hyper-focused narrative that he walks through, you know? I think it's a lot of fun to sort of bring that to life and try and convey, you know, how does somebody who thinks so intensely about crime detective work, you know, how does that look? How does that feel to somebody inside their head? And I think to play that is a lot of fun.
You okay, Reacher?
Just thinking maybe my brother told me about Blind Blake for a reason. Thinking about him lying in that morgue. Thinking I'm supposed to do something about it.
Like what?
I guess I'll find everybody responsible. And kill every last one of them.
So what we're going to see in this first season, I think, is Reacher the man growing into his new life, and Reacher the professional adapting to his new circumstances. And of course, as we find out pretty early in season 1, there's bad stuff going on everywhere, and so maybe those skills are going to be useful.
So you just go wherever you want, whenever you want?
Everyone's always jealous.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting approach to life. I think that the relationship between Roscoe and Reacher really lives in the banter. I think that Reacher is a very dry character, and I think Roscoe is definitely a firecracker and is not afraid to meet him in his sort of jabs. And I think that's kind of what sparks the chemistry between the two of them, is that they both are equally good sparring opponents. And I think that they delight a lot in sort of prodding at the other.
I figure your plan's to go to Hubble's house and dig your thumb into his eye until he tells you why he confessed to a murder he didn't commit.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be there to make sure that doesn't happen. Now I can either follow you the whole way, or I can save the shoe leather and get in the damn car.
The Reacher and Roscoe relationship is my all-time favorite. First of all, just on a personal level, Willa Fitzgerald, who plays Roscoe, is the best I've ever worked with, the best female actress I've ever worked with. I mean, she's incredible. We get to see a fascinating, vibrant firecracker come alive in Roscoe, and she's capable and smart and unafraid to be physical, and Reacher meets his match in this person. I mean, they're really equals. You know, I think when he's used to pushing people around intellectually or physically, you know, and testing people all the time, and when he sort of pushes, she pushes back, it's surprising for him and exciting for him, and he, you know, he has a great mutual respect for her.
You made them follow you, because you had Joe's note.
So you'd stay alive.
I don't need you looking out for me. I'm a fucking cop, not some girl who needs your protection.
Clearly.
Willa is a hoot. She's fantastic, and she's a lot like Roscoe, headstrong and fiercely intelligent, and isn't gonna take sort of any shit from anybody, and not even a gender basis. She's not taking shit from women or men. Underappreciated in the department, you could tell that there's sort of brilliance to Roscoe that is untapped, that she's able to exhibit and find a bit of herself over the course of this series.
Miss Conklin, you come to clean out your desk?
Roscoe discovers some things about her past and about Margrave's past that are unsettling over the course of the series.
These are all things that Roscoe as a character has always been suspicious of and always has been suspect of. Her family was farmers. She's been there in the town through all of the hardship. And so I think that she has kind of an extra interest in kind of parsing out this riddle because to her it's incredibly personal.
Whoever killed the Morrisons came after us last night. Broke into my house, carved a threat into my door. Who knows what they would have done if I'd been there alone.
They came into your house.
I'm fine. Let's just see what Jasper has for us.
It's okay. I had my eye on her.
Well, Finley is a retired police officer from the Boston PD, and now he's working as the chief detective in Margrave, a position he couldn't capture in Boston because of politics out there.
Malcolm Goodwin as Finley is everything you'd always want. You know, he didn't need basically to be told how Finley is. He saw it in the script, he saw it in the book. The sort of uptight Northeasterner with a tragedy that he's hiding from the world that keeps him reserved and keeps him sort of back from engaging with those around him.
So I guess that means he's dirty and you're okay.
And nothing means more to me than your vote of confidence.
Yeah, their relationship at first is a power struggle. It's a tug of war. Being that Reacher has a military background, he was also military police. And you have Finley, this is his case, and he's trying to solve it in his own way. And Reacher has his own methods of trying to solve the case as well. So at first it's a tug of war, but then eventually they get on the same page.
The Reacher-Finley relationship is great. They sort of collide in the beginning where, you know, Reacher's been arrested, wrongly accused of murder by Finley, and Finley's sure that he's got the right guy. So they're butting heads from the start. I think by the end, they're more like the odd couple, the old married couple, you know, where they have a great affection for each other, but they still bicker.
Time to stop for a snack, I see.
Worked up an appetite. It was on the way.
No thanks.
You're missing out.
Yeah, on heart disease.
Well, the key thing about Reacher and his relationships is that deep down, he loves his solitude, but equally, he's worried about being lonely. And the two things are slightly incompatible. And the result is that if he meets somebody who intrigues him on some elemental level, then he's very into that person.
How's it going, big fella?
Neely? I knew I'd track you down.
You wish. I tracked you. Neely is, in many ways, sort of the female counterpart to Jack Reacher. They're obviously quite similar, yet very different in demeanor. My showrunner, Nick Santora, when I first started on the project, he basically described it as, you know, imagine Jack Reacher as a silverback gorilla, and then imagine Neely as this sort of kitten that crawls on top of the silverback gorilla. That's their relationship in terms of, you know, she can push his buttons and you know, not get killed doing it, essentially. You're an emotional dumpster fire, you know that? Stop dissembling.
Goodbye, Neely.
What's great about what's happening in Margrave when Reacher arrives is that this is a town that's been bought and paid for. They're turning a willful blind eye to what Kleiner and his sons and his henchmen are doing outside of town. As long as Kleiner keeps paying and keeps fixing the sidewalks and making everything pristine and paying off with a stipend all the residents, they're in this sort of blissful state of willful ignorance.
It was my understanding you were just passing through.
You understood wrong. I figured I'd stick around a while. Margrave's such a nice town.
Used to be. Not so much lately. Mayor Teal is the mayor of a small town, maybe a couple of hours outside of Atlanta. And in a small town in the South, anywhere really, everybody, especially the mayor, knows any stranger that comes to town more than stopping for a tank of gas.
I think all small towns have got a big sort of political element that's usually pretty low-key and usually quite benign. You know, they've got community problems to solve and they've got provisions to make. So the idea that there's a stranger here who is going to contribute and then maybe tell the story elsewhere, what are they hiding?
You're not a cop. You got 1 minute to leave my crime scene or I'm taking you in. I buried one good man today and saw another one gutted. Not to mention his bride. Don't test me. He is the protagonist, and myself and my henchmen are, classically speaking, the antagonists in the story. So we meet early, and then we go all our separate ways, and then, like in all good drama, we clash at the climax.
You knew I'd come in here and cause a problem that would most likely get me in trouble. But know what you don't know?
What's that?
What it feels like when I hit you.
As Reacher becomes more comprehending of the situation in Margrave, KJ quickly identifies the fact that Reacher is his enemy number one. The two characters, Reacher and KJ, are actually sort of polar opposites of each other, but one thing that KJ, I think, really prizes over Reacher is this idea that he is this Machiavellian, smart villain pulling the strings. Reacher's intelligent, and Reacher has tried and been successful to piece together this jigsaw puzzle as to what's been going on and why it's happening. And the fact that Reacher actually hasn't figured out the degree to which KJ is involved, I think is a point of pride and is actually ultimately part of the character's downfall.
Like an onion, you peel back just how corrupt this town has been and how corrupt it's been for a long time. How the Teals, who have run this town and took it away from the Conklins, who are Roscoe's kin, were corrupt in their own right and ripe to be bought out by Kleiner. So suddenly you have all of the town's leadership in league with someone who's doing something very nasty to the environment in his counterfeiting scheme, and is going to sell this town down the river by doing it.
You looking for payback?
Payback, justice, vengeance. Looking for the whole gang.
I've been lucky enough to be on set when I saw a prison fight sequence between Alan and about like 15 goons. And Alan's physicality, you know, he's such a big guy and he goes whole hog with it, and it's just fantastic.
If you boys knew what's about to happen to you, you'd leave now. So I'll give you to the count of 3. 1. We were in the prison bathroom, and it's basically 5-on-1. And the reason I think it's special is because most of the time, fights are designed in such a way that you really only shoot 3 or 4 pieces of the fight at a time, right? Because it's sort of like designed for cuts, right? Just a couple punches, and then we'll let the stunt guy do that piece of it, and then you come in and we'll cover the other side of it with a couple punches, and the audience knows that, you know, and we've come to sort of expect that fights are chopped up in a way that's like, oh, it's not really him fighting or whatever. We designed it in a way to where there were no cuts, and I would do the whole thing. You could almost just live in a big master and shoot this entire fight, and it's brutal and savage. It takes you around the entire room, and you know, a lot of fun to perform, but I think even more fun to watch. Shooting on the Margrave backlot is surreal. It's a legitimate town. It's huge. It spans the horizon, and yet it's the set that we built here, you know? So you walk in the ice cream shop and you're always disappointed because there's no ice cream in the ice cream shop. It's like when you go to the fridge at night and you're hungry, you just keep opening it thinking there's something. Every time I go in the ice cream shop, I'm waiting for ice cream. It's nothing but 2x4s and sticks in the ice cream shop. But other than that, Margrave is pretty great.
I thought it was actually a real town. I mean, literally, I was like, there's roads, there's a gas station, the barbershop, I was gonna go in there and get a haircut. That's how legit and real it looked. Absolutely stunning.
Margrave backlot is amazing. It's a full town square. Most of the buildings have an interior as well. And so the interior, you can it feels like you're in an actual small town green. Like all of the stores have stuff in the windows. You go in, there's stuff like in the display cases. And it just, the level of detail is really fun to be around as an actor and to play with, because it kind of really does situate you in the time and place of Margrave during the show.
Just easing on a little foundation. We don't want it to look like I'm wearing makeup. You know, just a nice glow, you know, keep it warm.
I know this is gonna sound sort of corny and sort of cliche, but the nice thing about this several month shoot is it's the nicest crew and cast that I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of wonderful people, but you know, from Alan, who's number 1 on the call sheet and sets the sort of mood and the professionalism, always here early, always the last guy to walk off of set, to Willa and Malcolm and Mark and others that we've talked about, setting just a friendly, lovely tone of always helping the crew, always being there for the crew as much as the crew is for them. And then our Toronto-based crew has just been wonderful. They've worked through elements that you would not believe. We started shooting in April, and April in Toronto is still winter. It snowed when we were shooting the pilot, which was supposed to be sultry summer Georgia. It didn't always look like this as we talk later in the summer. The crew slogged through sleet and rain and snow to just keep shooting and just keep going in some very, very freezing nights, and I'm incredibly grateful to them.
Cut! Save the money, guys.
One of the reasons I really love what this show is doing is it kind of blends genres, you know? I mean, it's not just like this is like a drama where you're sort of like miserable every day, you know, like, oh, life sucks. It touches in every genre, including comedy. So it's really entertaining all around. And I think its well-rounded nature is what makes it so unique. And I know I, as an audience member, love feeling something a little more true to life, and that's what this is. Every genre, every facet of life.